Sabrina could deservedly call herself a successful woman. She had a luxurious apartment, a small business of her own, and loyal friends. The only missing piece in this puzzle was a husband. She had tried to start a family with a man once before, but as the saying goes, the first pancake is always lumpy. This was a long time ago when Sabrina was just an ordinary girl starting out on her own. She met a guy from the neighboring department at work, and after a year of dating, they rented an apartment and started living together. Things were moving towards marriage, but something stopped Sabrina's mind from marrying him. She started noticing that her boyfriend was gradually losing his commitment. Initially, he was attentive, showed care for her, and contributed to the household budget. Over time, however, he relaxed and his true nature began to show through. He started hiding his salary from her, constantly asked her for money, did nothing around the house, and behaved rudely. He could be insulting when Sabrina had complaints, slam the door and leave, sulk for days, or try to guilt-trip her with a gift or a bouquet he had bought God knows when. Unable to tolerate this behavior any longer, Sabrina threw all his meager gifts, a plush bunny, a set of Chinese lingerie obviously ordered from a well-known website, and a cup with faded hearts, into a bag along with her fiancé's belongings. All of this was thrown into the hallway to wait for its owner when he stepped over the threshold. He was deprived of the keys to the apartment and kicked out into the wild. Many years had passed since then, and a lot had changed in Sabrina's life. She became a successful businesswoman and was now considered a pretty good catch. However, the ghost of past relationships loomed somewhere behind her, preventing her from relaxing and trusting anyone. Her mother would wring her hands at every meeting and cry that her daughter was consciously depriving her of the joy of raising grandchildren. Sabrina would try to comfort her mother, promising to solve this problem in the near future, to which her mother would wave dismissively, having heard that promise more than once or twice before. "I don't believe you. You're a traitor to our family. You've betrayed all our values because of one fool. Look around, all your friends are buried in diapers and baby clothes, while you're showing off and acting young as if age doesn't affect you. But then bam, menopause hits, and what then, huh? You'll be a rich, unhappy, lonely hermit. That's what awaits you," her mother would scold. Sabrina understood that her mother did have a point, but her words could have been softer. The harsh truth didn't inspire any positivity and was not exactly motivating. Moreover, the faces of her friends, whom her mother spoke of, immediately came to mind. Their dejected appearance, dark circles under their eyes from lack of sleep, nervously twitching eyelids, and the inevitable messy bun on their heads with t-shirts stained with milk or baby food. These were the clear signs of motherhood that Sabrina particularly dreaded. Yuck, how awful! Sabrina shuddered at such thoughts. She loved children, but she had no illusions about them and did not idealize motherhood. It seemed too complicated, energy-consuming, and required too much self-sacrifice, which was something. Sabrina was not yet ready for motherhood. Then she met Andy. At first, she didn't like him. He seemed overly self-confident, always with a playful smile on his face and a haughty look in his eyes. These features reminded Sabrina of her ex, who had been even more self-assured. However, Andy surprised her. His courting did not cross any conventional red lines, but clearly showed that he was serious and would not take no for an answer. Sabrina decided to give him a chance, and she didn't regret it. Andy turned out to be quite a remarkable man. Everything he touched seemed to turn to gold. He fixed anything broken, cleaned anything dirty, and cooked anything raw. He didn't invent excuses to avoid tidying up, mopping the floor, preparing meals, or giving Sabrina a foot massage. She was even afraid to tell anyone about her good fortune, lest she accidentally jinx it. Especially since Andy had recently proposed to her, and she had accepted. You should have seen her mother's face when Sabrina shared the news. Has God really heard my prayers, Sabrina? I am begging you, don't delay with the children. You can start working on that right now. I fully support it. Nowadays, people have different morals. No one will judge you, her mother exclaimed excitedly. Shush, Mom. Calm down, please, Sabrina replied, trying to downplay her mother's eagerness. The only thing that bothered Sabrina was her future mother-in-law. They had only met a couple of times, but she left a mixed impression. It seemed she wasn't very interested in Sabrina herself. She was more concerned with Sabrina's financial status and didn't hesitate to ask about it in detail. Andy even apologized for his mother's behavior. Don't pay any attention to what she says. She's just happy that I'll have such a successful wife. You have to understand that she was a working single mom. She raised me alone, never received any child support from my father, and always dreamed of becoming successful herself. But it didn't work out. I help her, of course, but you know I'm far from your level. I'm just an ordinary worker when you come right down to it. The wedding was a grand affair. Sabrina spared no effort or expense and arranged everything with a flourish: fireworks, a 3-tiered cake, a magnificent wedding dress, and a convertible. After all, this was her first and hopefully last marriage. After the celebration, Sabrina fell very ill. She briefly wondered if she had eaten something spoiled, as she was severely nauseated for several days after the event. Eventually, she felt slightly better and forgot about the incident. The honeymoon provided more pleasant distractions than thinking about gastrointestinal issues. However, upon returning home, the malaise returned. While her husband unpacked their vacation things, Sabrina went to the doctor, suspecting that rich food, alcohol, and who knows what else had upset her stomach. She wanted to be sure and take appropriate measures. After submitting all the necessary tests, she went to work to inspect how things had been in her absence. Once she had finished her tasks, Sabrina returned home. Darling, I've already prepared dinner and sorted the laundry. We just need to stick it into the washing machine. The souvenirs and gifts are in the bedroom in a bag. You should check who gets what because you picked them out, Andy informed her. The evening passed with pleasant chores, but the next morning, Sabrina was again overwhelmed by weakness and pain. Cursing her appetite, the all-inclusive service, and the restaurant food, she took a spasmolytic and went to work. Nausea surged up her throat, but she fought it off for the time being. Sabrina wanted to start treatment as soon as possible and forget about the unpleasant sensations, but the test results would not be ready for another 2 days. Until then, she had to endure and survive on medication. Andy was also worried and did his best to help his ailing wife, even going out of his way to cook diet-friendly meals for her. "You're a darling," Sabrina thanked him, looking a bit green before rushing to the bathroom. Her body completely refused to accept healthy fruits and vegetables and was clearly longing for junk food. Everything began to make sense when the test results arrived. The doctor called around noon and invited Sabrina for an appointment. Red-faced, Sabrina sat in the doctor's office, not knowing where to look. She was so ashamed of her own foolishness. How could she have been so silly? And what about Andy? After all, they were both adults and were supposed to know the most basic things. The ultrasound confirmed everything. However, the doctor immediately warned that surgery might be necessary. This slightly upset Sabrina, but there were no other options. She barely managed to stay at work until the end of the day and rushed home as soon as the clock struck 6. Meanwhile, interesting events were unfolding at home. Andy, who had returned from work a little earlier than Sabrina, was busy preparing another healthy dinner. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. Sabrina had her own keys, so this had to be a visitor. Andy's mother was standing on the doorstep, holding a heavy suitcase. She entered the apartment and clapped her hands in delight. You have such a palace here. Well done, son. You chose a good wife, I must say. Where will my room be? Can I choose it myself? The man stared at his mother in shock as she enthusiastically ran off to explore the rooms. Not knowing what to say to avoid offending her, Mom, he started hesitantly. Such things should have been discussed before you came. I'm not sure Sabrina will approve. At that moment, Sabrina walked through the still open door. What won't I approve of? She asked, smiling slightly. Mom, Andy spread his hands in a helpless gesture. Mother-in-law rushed to Sabrina. Sabrina, you have such a palace here. You won't even notice me. If you allow me to live here, Sabrina patted her mother-in-law on the shoulder. Oh, I'm not against it at all. You know, your timing is perfect. I have some news. Andy, sit down. I'm not sure you'll be able to handle this standing up. After her husband sat on the couch, Sabrina began to speak. I'm pregnant, but don't rush to celebrate just yet. Brace yourselves, we're having triplets. I'm as shocked as you are, so your mom's arrival is very timely. I was already considering hiring a nanny, but since your mom wants to live with us, that won't be necessary. I'll be able to continue working. After all, 3 children are a considerable expense. You will help me, right? Sabrina turned to her mother-in-law. However, from the look on her face, it was clear that she was either about to faint or melt into a puddle on the floor. Andy's mother stood hesitantly, shifting from one foot to the other. You know, kids, it's really nice here, of course, but I've been thinking. You're a young family just starting out. Why would I get in your way? No, I'm going home. I visited enough. Take care of yourselves. She raised a fist in encouragement and quickly grabbed her suitcase, retreating before anyone could stop her. Andy looked utterly stunned. Did you say that because of my mom? Oh dear, I wish that were the case, but no. I wasn't joking. It seems my mom's fervent prayers for grandchildren were heard by God, and He blessed us threefold. What can I say? She's a saint. Since then, Andy's mother has never visited the couple. She only sent messages and called, preferring to welcome Sabrina and Andy at her place. Sabrina's mother, on the other hand, received the news of triplets with enthusiasm. When the couple brought the triplets home, she eagerly offered her help and moved her belongings to her daughter's house. She adored her son-in-law. After all, he had given her such joy, something she had never dared to dream of. Well, Sabrina, she would say, this is your punishment for tormenting me all those years. Then she would laugh, hug her daughter, and rush to attend to the crying babies, singing something unintelligible.